Hello, this is Kara from Kara Tarot. I am doing a sort of midway review of my Drop'em 78 study, sort of an overview of where I am so far. I'm trying to keep this rather brief. I'm recording in a different place because of the structure of this video, and so I'm sitting here looking at my Thanksgiving tree, and I also want to keep it brief because I just took my breakfast quiche out of the oven and I want to get to that. So in my study, I decided to contrast the Wisdom of Pooh tarot with the Cult of Weimar tarot. My comments won't necessarily align with the pictures, just so you know. I'll try to get to that part. And in overview, the Wisdom of Pooh tarot is very consistent with Rider-Waite-Smith's system, just using the Winnie the Pooh characters. I chose it because it is a soothing deck, and I need that right now in my life. And in addition, I knew that it would press me a bit to read the stories for each card, because the guidebook, the marvelous guidebook, has a new Winnie the Pooh story for each card that is tied into the meaning of the card. And I knew that that would be a soothing practice, even though sometimes it feels like a pressure. And then the contrast deck, the Cult of Weimar, is about as far away as you could get. It is quite dark. And beginning with the pentacles here, I didn't post many of the pentacles. That was another thing that I knew would give me a little bit of relief, is because the Cult of Weimar has so much nudity in it, I knew I wouldn't be posting every day. And so it kind of gave me a freedom to not feel that I had to post every day. And I ended up posting more than I thought I would. The Cult of Weimar Pentacles suit, or coin suit, is excessively dark because it is specifically about money during the Weimar period, which was quite bureaucratic. It was, much like the United States today, it was highly in favor of the very rich. There was a tremendous disparity between the very rich and the very poor. And this suit is also essentially about the corruption. And it definitely rests on, there's a card that represents child prostitution, and just the overall bleakness of the period for the average person. That being done with photographs from the artists and the nightclubs and the outsider art and the very highly experimental theater that was being done in the Weimar period. So I identify with all of that because I've worked in those scenes, I've worked in those worlds. And so it was, in some respects it feels like home, and in some respects it feels incredibly relevant. And then on the other hand, it feels very dark. And moving into the wands, for the most part in the wands, the signature of the wand suit is an Art Nouveau hat pin representing the wands. And that sharpness, although I might have used it for swords, the sharpness of those hat pins says something about the wand's suit. So the wand suit in the Cult of Weimar deck is also quite dark. Now, in the Winnie the Pooh suit, it is, again, much more traditional. And the pentacles, of course, are sometimes directly correlate to the images in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is lovely because I depend on that. It is my favorite suit, that blossoming and earthiness of the pentacles. So the wands also have the stick imagery and the growth imagery, and also a lot of the water imagery that's prevalent in the Rider-Waite-Smith wands suit, because of that aspect of journeys. But again, the cult of Weimar is, again, it's a much more indoor deck. Now, there is one card in the cult of Weimar where they change I think it's the 10. It's either the 9 or the 10, where they change the representation of the wands to canes. And it's very interesting because it is about blue-collar workers, sanitation workers in the Weimar society, and he's carrying the cane. So that then immediately you have this, the thing that could help him, he's carrying, but he's not using it. And so again, that's, it's a dark interpretation. Oh, I forgot to say, for the pentacles in the Cult of Weimar Tarot, I feel that the upright meaning in the Cult of Weimar is the normal reversed meaning. They're all that dark. So that's something that that definitely colors how much I would use that deck, because I'm so attached to the normal meanings of the pentacles. The wands are, because of the amount of creativity in the Cult of Weimar Tarot, the wands are more in line with a lot of the creativity. And then the cups, of course, the cups in the Winning the Wisdom of Pooh deck are honeypots, which is a delightful shift, but it still remains tremendously on point with the traditional loving images. It is a hug deck. In the Cult of Weimar, the cups are sort of all over the place. And one of the interesting things to me is the cups are a much more positive suit overall in the Cult of Weimar. Of course, with all the nightclubs, it's about partying. So, and all of that nightclub imagery, the very inventive nightclubs that they had. For example, the first table-to-table telephones are highlighted. So that is there, that friendliness and warmth. However, as they move into the court cards of the cups, once again, I'm finding the slant on the court cards of the cup suit is once again what you would normally think of as the reversed meaning. So again, the court cards in that cup suit are much more negative, a much more negative slant. So this has been really good, because if I do work with that deck, these are overall things I need to know, which I had not picked it up in such specificity before, even though I've worked with this deck before. So all in all, it's been a really good study, because it did what I thought it would do, which it gave me this kind of soothing hug from the Wisdom of Pooh deck. It didn't stress me out very much in terms of the usual meanings, and then it gave me these additional stories. And then the Cult of Weimar gave me this big contrast of darkness and corruption and decadence that goes with that time period in the Cult of Weimar. So all in all, I'm enjoying it, and I will give you an update when I get to the end of the Drop 'em 78. Thank you.